The Lapis Lazuli Academy is both tranquil and peaceful. Some classmates come up to greet Tia Rose Lapis Clementine. They were sad with tomorrow being graduation, knowing they wouldn't see each other anymore. However, she was optimistic they would. She'd always be here, in the kingdom of Lapis Lazuli after all. Marietta expressed optimism, since Tiara was their future queen. Florian asked when her wedding was with Prince Heartknights, and Tiara answered after graduating, she'd undergo bridal training for a year, and then they'd hold their wedding in the cathedral. She promised to do her best to live up to everyone's expectations. Tia Rose was the daughter of the Marquis and Prime Minister, bestowed the Lapis name, and fiancé of the Crown Prince. She smiled with glee, seeing her prince. However, Heartknights seemed grim. A black-haired girl would come running into his arms. Tiara couldn't believe this was happening. We see a blurred vision of a girl playing her favorite otome. This girl absolutely loved Heartknight's gorgeous looks. His gentle way of telling her, "I want you to live with me, now and forever." The girl clicked yes, with no hesitation, achieving a new CG event and finally clearing his route. She loved the otome game, the ring of Lapis Lazuli, so much she couldn't put it down. She'd be met with surprise that Tia Rose would walk up to her, saying, "You're just a lowly commoner. Stay away from my Heartknights. You're an eyesore." Now the girl inhabiting Tiara's body realized she was Tiara. She fell over. The girl who gamed was her previous life. She reincarnated as the Villainess. She woke up in the infirmary with Heartknights by her side. He told her to get more sleep. He was arranging a carriage for her now. Heartknights, Lapis Lazuli, Lackmouth, Prince of the Kingdom, and the main route in the Ultimate game. He pointed out that was her first time passing out, and asked if she was trying to catch his eye because he was giving Akari so much affection. His eyes were cold, nothing like Heartknights in the game. She apologized, answering she really was under the weather. He was alright with it, because he was technically her fiancé. The word technically caused her heart to ache. He knew tomorrow was the graduation party, but he had business to attend to, and apologized, but he wouldn't be able to escort her there. Was there any greater humiliation than not being escorted to a party by her fiancé? She knew what happened in the story from this point on, because she played the game so many times. The main route was Heartknights. The heroine enrolls at the academy with her powerful magic, the Holy Prayer, and meets Heartknights. He was the most popular student, yet constantly showered the heroine with affection, smiling at her kindly, whispering sweet lines to her. And after the ending scene, they have a grand wedding at the cathedral. But Tiara wasn't the heroine. Instead, the harsh Villainess, who constantly chastised the heroine, not wanting to lose her prince. At the graduation party, she's condemned for her contempt of the heroine, and her engagement gets called off. In this timeline, Tiara hadn't done anything mean, but she'd like to avoid the condemnation event if she could. Unfortunately, today was the game's ending. Only a bad end awaited. She couldn't remember what happened after this event, but there was no happy ending where the Villainess ended up with someone. At home, she was greeted by her maid, Feline. The Lapis names an honor bestowed upon the families of those who perform great deeds for the royal family. She'd be met with surprise with both of her parents greeting her. They rarely welcomed her home personally. However, they wanted to give her lovely accessories she could wear at her wedding, as well as eat sweets. They wouldn't be able to spend as much time doing this together like they used to. Her father knew it was too soon to start crying, but he'd miss his dear Tiara. Being the daughter of the Marquis, granted the Lapis name, she's been undergoing training to become queen since she was young. As the Crown Prince's fiancée, she's worked hard at studying all sorts of subjects. Her father often told her if her husband seemed like he was about to take a wrong turn, she needed to correct him. It may have been strenuous at times, but she did it all out of love for the prince. Unfortunately, she didn't get through to him. She really loved his character though, and considered skipping the graduation party, but it'd be bad for the daughter of a marquis. The last thing she wanted was to trouble her dear mother and father. Heartknights was playing his role, and she couldn't change her own either. She wondered what was going to happen to her. That night, a mysterious boy enveloped his body in magic. He uttered Tia Rose's name, yearning for her. At the condemnation event, Tiara's friends were angry about Lady Akari's behavior. She hung around Prince Heartknights too much. No matter what, they were on Tiara's side. After they left, her hand started to tremble. She prepared herself for this, but she was still scared. To cheer her up, Feline brought her a whole tray of sweets. Tiara loved baking and eating sweets ever since her previous life. Eating them made her very happy. Akari suddenly barged in, asking if Tiara was alright. The conversation exchange they had was pleasant. Tiara was sure she was the heroine of the otome. A cute, luxurious dress, shining jewels, the sweet nature of an angel. She was everything you'd expect of the game's heroine to be. Akari expressed worry since Tiara's collapse yesterday. Heart Knightson came in, checking on her since Akari was. The entire interaction hung around his arm. Reaching the ballroom, Tiara knew the event was going to start when she went past the doors. The people began to clamor, questioning why Tiara was entering alone without her fiancé, and Heart Knights would then declare in front of everyone that their engagement was off. Tiara's father began to panic and started to approach. But Tiara shook her head no. She asked Heart Knights the reason. If he wanted to take a consort, there were proper procedures he could follow. He berated her for talking back to a member of the royal family, and explained she said many harsh things to Akari after learning she grew up in the countryside, told Akari to kneel when greeting him, and that she shouldn't dance with him either. Tiara logically answered that she just helped Akari learn some things, not being accustomed to life here, that she was to kneel before Heart Knights, since he was crowned prince, and that other time, Akari had already danced with him more than twice, something only one's fiancé should do. All perfectly reasonable explanations. Heart Knights gulped. He was losing, going, but, Akari said you're always mean to her. Tiara knew any defense of her innocence would be fruitless. Whether it was because the heroine conquered him, or it was a revision to the game, it all went according to the story in the end. With a sad expression, she asked if his heart truly belonged to Lady Akari. He ended his engagement to Tiara and declared his new engagement with her, making Akari future queen. Bruh, her smile pissing me off. Even though it was over, Tiara still had her kind parents, as well as Feline and her friends. But that would come shattering, with the prince declaring the crime of harming the future queen unforgivable. He thereby banished Tiara from the kingdom. He was too cruel, but she couldn't defy his order. Now, she wouldn't be able to see any of her loved ones again. The mysterious boy would cut in, saying, "That's enough." He walked towards, asking Tiara if she was alright. This was the first prince of the foreign kingdom Marine Forest, Aquasteed Marine Forest, and still one of the worst naming of characters I've ever heard. He was the main character of the game's sequel. Tiara fell in love the moment she first saw his design, but she died before the sequel was even released. She wondered what he was doing here. He told her to stand tall in all her pride. She was more righteous and beautiful than anyone here. Heart Knights told him to stay out of this, because she needed to be condemned. Aqua countered, however, that it seemed Heart Knight's words had been way harsher than hers. He broke his engagement off at a graduation party, a celebratory event, criticizing a lone woman in front of everyone and humiliated her. Things a crown prince should not do. Now that Tiara's old engagement was done, Aqua got on one knee, asking to be the one to save her heart. He's wanted desperately to make her his for a long time. She was flattered, but wondered why the sequel prince was proposing to her. He knew this was sudden, but gently kissed her hand, hoping she'd consider regardless. The guests were all surprised. In this moment, it's like they were the only ones here. Akari told them to wait. She couldn't accept this. She asked why Aqua chose her, because Tiara was terribly mean and belligerent. She grabbed Aqua's arm, telling him to join them. But Tiara would warn her that he was a foreign prince. She wasn't supposed to touch him like that. Aqua pulled away, thanking Tiara for her concern, for disrespecting him. He had the guards take Akari away. Despite knowing they should be past the game's ending, Tiara wondered what was going to happen now. Tiara apologized for staring at him so intently. His looks were a favorite amongst the ladies. Hearing this, he wondered if that meant he could get his hopes up a bit. She asked Aqua why he proposed to her, and he answered, "There's only one reason. I wanted you desperately, Lady Tiara Rose." Tiara first met Prince Aquasteed a year ago at a soiree. They were in the same class at the academy, but hadn't really spoken at all. She wondered why he chose her. He told her he always watched her from the window of the library, and often saw her reading in the shade of a tree. He thought the constant changes in her expression were adorable. She looked so serious when reading, but in the next moment, she'd start shyly blushing. When he saw tears in her eyes, he wanted to embrace her so badly. Covering her face in her hands, she asked him to forget that, but he couldn't. Now that they were finally together, he wanted to see more of her face. Watching her reading under that tree every day, he became more and more captivated by her. So much that he even surprised himself. But she was engaged to Heart Knights, and he could never steal a foreign prince's fiancée. He originally intended to keep his feelings to himself. After completing his year of studying abroad, he returned home and told himself to forget about her. But then, couldn't believe his luck. He was desperate to not let that opportunity pass him by. He thought maybe he was pathetic. She told him not at all. When she was standing there all alone, his presence was very reassuring. He was a bit shocked when Prince Heart Knight went so far as to banish her. Though, if she were banished, the thought crossed his mind to just take her away. With him smelling her hair, she told him not to tease her, but he was serious. She wondered how he could say all this so calmly. Was it because he was a character in an otome, or was this just his personality? It pained him to hear she doubted him. He loved her so much, he just couldn't contain himself. He lightly kissed her forehead, and unfortunately, they arrived. Escorting her out, she thanked him for seeing her home. He asked her out on a date, and she gladly accepted. Graduating from the academy now, she had plenty of time. Inside the house, Tiara's father was pissed. Her engagement was annulled, and the prince threatened banishment from the kingdom. How dare that fool say things to his sweet Tiara Rose? Tiara's mother brought up how Prince Aquasteed was quite lovely. She asked if Tiara was going to answer him. They all wanted to know how she felt. Tiara thought he was far more than she deserved. A villainess marrying the crown prince of a neighboring country? Was such a future even possible? The next day, Heart Knights demanded the guard to let him through to see Akari. Despite his father's orders, Heart Knights promised he wouldn't be long, that he's realized his judgment might have been a mistake. He needed to speak to her to know for sure. Akari was happy to see him. She missed him, and there was nothing to do here in confinement. She thought she was going to die of boredom. Hearing the word boredom, he was surprised. It was like what happened at the graduation party wasn't on her mind at all. He asked if what Tiara said that day to her was true, that she hadn't done anything wrong, but Akari remembered feeling bad because Tiara was mean to her. Since she had Heart Knights by her side though, she felt very reassured. Heart Knights shrugged her off, making her question if Tiara said something to him. She couldn't believe the villainess was still involved, even after the story was over. She told Heart Knights to get her out of here as soon as he could, and to also tell her about Prince Aqua. After what Tiara told her, she wanted to save Aqua before he got hurt too. The end of the graduation event marked the end of all the games events. Tiara contemplated what might happen next. Prince Aqua was the main character in the sequel. She couldn't imagine a future where she, the villainess, became his consort. If the sequel had a heroine, Aqua might have a change of heart too, just like Heart Knights. A rock hit her window, and going to check on it, she saw Aqua waiting outside. He hit her with a smooth, "Good evening. Isn't the moon beautiful tonight?" He hopped up the balcony like it was nothing, telling her there was something he had to show her. He asked if she was familiar with the Fairy Star Festival. There's an event in one episode of The Ring of Lapis Lazuli that the heroine gets to see with the character she's closest to. Aqua used his magic to call the fairies, then put his jacket on Tiara. He couldn't have her catching a cold. He put his head on her shoulder. He was so happy to spend time with her. Having her look at the sky, she awed at the beautiful star shower. He was glad she enjoyed it. Staring at his eyes, she compared their golden glow to the stars. It's like they were sucking her in. Having a meal together, the king asked Heart Knights if he gained anything from meeting Akari. Heart Knights apologized for going off on his own, but reported he realized he believed what Akari was saying without even questioning it. He wished he had listened to Tiara more. The king then said he apologized to Tiara for the terrible time she had, but she didn't blame Heart Knights at all. The two of them used to talk all the time, and Heart Knights regrettably remembered. She kept him in line whenever he was skipping class, helped him work through his nervousness, and told him to carry himself with confidence. She constantly scolded him because her focus had always been on the future of the kingdom. Heart Knights only now realized she cared for him so much. Meanwhile, she moved on, getting ready to look glamorous for Aquasteed. Feline chuckled, thinking Tiara looked like she was having so much fun. It made sense, since this was her first date. Wow. She never went on a single date with Heart Knights? Feline adorned Tiara with a hair ornament made of coral, a specialty of Marine Forest Kingdom. She was sure Aqua would be pleased when he saw her wearing it. With Aqua arriving, Tiara's heart was pounding in her chest. Her feet felt like they were floating. She's never felt like this before. She enjoyed the beautiful field of flowers he took her to. Again, something she never experienced before. Sitting down for a picnic under the shade of a tree, she presented some madeleines and cookies she baked for him. He enjoyed the delicious taste, and she went on about how she loved eating and baking sweets. Madeleines were one of her favorites, because they were light and airy, but perfectly moist. They paired well with tea, cocoa, and so many other drinks. She once baked a whole basket full, then got absorbed in a book, and before she knew it, the basket was empty. Aqua loved how adorable she was when talking about sweets. He could listen to her forever. He picked up a cookie, telling her to open wide. She wasn't expecting that. She ate it from his hands, and this somehow made it taste better. He suddenly held her close and whispered, "May I call you Tiara?" By the way, He had been calling her Lady Tiara Rose the entire time. She told him it was fine, and he in turn wanted her to call him Aqua. She never felt anything when Heart Knights called her Tiara. Aqua suddenly embraced her. He didn't know what to do. He was so happy. She was worried this close. He'd noticed her heart was racing. Her eyes widened, noticing his heart was beating too. He caressed her hair, telling her she looked like she was waiting to be kissed right now. He felt it was too bad. He planned to go on more dates and take his time, but it was no use. In front of him, he couldn't help but want her. He now wanted a favor and asked her to feed him a cookie. She did, and while he chewed, she felt like she was feeding an animal. She was glad he enjoyed her cookies so much, and turning around, he noticed the coral hair ornament and asked if it meant he could get his hopes up. Resting his head on her shoulder, Tiara again wondered what would happen to her from here on out. Back at home, she wanted to talk to her father about something, and when he guessed Prince Aquasteed, she quickly grew flush. He admitted he'd be sad seeing his daughter marry into another kingdom, but seeing her happy and smiling was what mattered most to him. The next day, Elliot, Prince Aqua's attendant, greeted her. The two conversed on the differences between the two kingdoms. Marine forest was apparently abundant in natural coral, pearls, and other jewels of the sea. She thought it was every girl's dream. They'd come across Heart Knights along the way. He froze seeing her, then apologized for what happened at the graduation party, not what she was expecting. She told him to raise his head because a member of royalty mustn't bow to just anyone. He felt nostalgic. She always cautioned him about all kinds of things. He thanked her for doing so much for him. She was glad he understood and felt genuinely happy to see the character she loved in her past back on his feet. He went to reach for her, but Aqua would slap his hand away, holding Tiara tight in his arms. He asked Heart Knights, "What were you trying to do to my beloved fiancé? How could you?" Not like the video and subscribe to my channel. Here on my Shoujo Weekly, I've got a ton of villainous anime for you to watch, and even a whole playlist filled with 20 plus videos. There's Regression Villainous, Manhwa Villainous, Villainous Level 99, Dumb Villainous, and many more. So hit that subscribe and I'll be your guide. During their school days, all the girls would fawn over the foreign prince, Aquasteed, clamoring about how he's traveled across several countries just to further his own knowledge. At this point, he had just transferred to Lapis Lazuli Academy because he wanted to end his travels by studying properly. They heard he was brilliant with a sword, too. One look was all it took to get the girls squealing. Elliot would tease Aqua for being front and center again. He heard Aqua had his own fan club now, and its members were growing by the day. Aqua assumed it was because a foreign prince was a novelty, and dismissed it to say he was heading to the library. Elliot thought it was good His Highness was so studious, but also thought perhaps it'd be good if he looked at other things as well. Aqua received invitations from so many young ladies, and yet he refused them all. However, Aqua dismissed the idea once again, simply answering there were so many books here they didn't have in Marine Forest, and they intrigued him. He wanted to be worthy of the title of Crown Prince, wishing for nothing more. He was happy with this book at the library, but with one glance outside, seeing Tiara's beautiful smile, his heart made a sound. He met her a year ago at a soiree that was held to welcome him. Prince Heart Knights welcomed Aqua as an honorable guest, introducing Tiara as his then fiancé. Aqua was impressed by her courteous language, her soft manner of speaking, her flawless etiquette, and her polished demeanor. The effort she put in was as plain as day. She was so dignified at times and spared no effort in anything she did. Whenever she saw someone in need, she talked to them and offered her aid, never pretending she hadn't seen them. There he was, trying to be a worthy crown prince, while she carried herself with the dignity of a lady of the Lapis name. They were similar in the way they both constantly disciplined themselves. But whenever she ate sweets, the contrast delighted him. He loved all the little expressions she made. Elliot would catch him staring at Heart Knights' fiancé, and Aqua would tell him she was out there every day. As he watched her every day, his interest grew. What book was she reading? What was she saying? What was this roaring in his chest? Elliot could see that lately, Aqua wasn't coming to the library to read, but instead to gaze upon the flowers. Well, there was only one flower in Aqua's eyes, and watching her calmed his soul. It began to rain, and Elliot was surprised to see Aqua casting magic, calling forth the wind to disperse the clouds. Elliot asked why, since he almost never used magic, and Aqua answered he didn't want Tiara's book to get wet. But he knew the truth. While pretending not to realize it, he was in love with her, so he wanted to give her something, some small happiness, a smile. If he could reach her, if he could touch her, she was close enough for it. But he couldn't. He mustn't. Elliot suggested he talk to her, but Aqua told him not to get ridiculous ideas. She was Prince Heart Knights' fiancé, and one's first love was fleeting, never coming to fruition. All he was allowed to do was pray for her happiness. The day came when he walked into Tiara collapsing as she saw Heart Knights holding Akari in his arms. Aqua came to her side, and picking her up, he took her to the infirmary. Watching while she recovered, he wondered what could have happened to make this strong young lady collapse. Was it because of the girl who immediately transferred in and grew so close to Heart Knight? Perhaps he'd leave Tiara rose for her. Heart Knights entered and apologized for the trouble Tiara caused Aqua, taking over from here. Outside, Aqua stared at his hands. This was the first time touching the girl he loved, but he shook the thought away. His time at the academy ended with tomorrow's graduation ceremony. Surely, these restless feelings would ease up after. But the day came, and Heart Knights viciously annulled his engagement to Tiara in front of everybody. In that moment, a storm welled up in Aqua. He wouldn't hesitate, and followed his heart to be by her side. He'd take the flower he could only gaze at before into his arms. Of course, what happened was everything we know thus far. Aqua would have Elliot send a letter to his father, the king, and Elliot sent it in the form of a dove. The contents Aqua wrote explained he'd be bringing Tiara back to Marine Forest as his fiancée, so she could live her life there and want for nothing. A new wish was born in his heart, to make her his own. Eventually, she agreed to marry him, and his wish came true. On the day she came to visit unannounced, Aqua was so excited to see her, but Elliot reminded him he needed to finish his pile of paperwork. Afterwards, he strolled the halls to find her, getting irritated seeing Heart Knights, and slapped his hand away. Holding her possessively, Aqua asked what he was trying to do to his beloved fiancée. Tiara blushed hearing his words, and he kissed her hair, then whispered, "It's all right. I'm sorry I took so long. Tiara, I've come to see you." Aqua was stern, affirming to Heart Knights that again, Tiara was his fiancée. Heart Knights couldn't believe this. They were already official? Well, turns out Aqua had the consent of both Heart Knights' father and Marquis Clementine, as well as his own parents. He told Heart Knights he couldn't touch her as he pleased. Ah ha ha, that's what you get, you dumb piece of shit. Quit trying to crawl back and go back to your little pick-me-hoe. Heart Knights apologized for being unaware, and Aqua responded he'd overlook this now that Heart Knights understood. The happy couple would walk off, and all Heart Knights could feel was regret. Tiara wanted to talk to Aqua about what just happened, but he told her not to worry. He was her fiancé. Of course he'd protect her. Her heart began to race. She accepted his proposal, but felt so embarrassed hearing him say it. He thanked her for choosing him, and she in turn did the same. It was like the scary version of him from a moment ago never existed. She felt so safe. She squealed seeing the confectionaries he prepared for her. A whole cake packed with strawberries and a fancy tea set. Afternoon tea with Prince Aqua in a beautiful rose garden. It was all too amazing for her. She knew strawberries were a specialty of his home country. Cute and sweet with a hint of sourness. Wow. I've never heard of strawberries described that way. Either way, she loved eating them and baking with them. In cakes, cookies, puddings. She apologized for getting lost in the moment, but ever since she got her memories from her previous life back, she's been wanting to make a new dessert with strawberries. After she enjoyed the cake, Elliot introduced himself once more. Since he wasn't a noble, he had no family name, but he's been serving Aqua for a long time. Feline introduced herself next. She and Tiara grew up together, and Tiara thought of her like an older sister who's always been by her side supporting her. Feline thought the same and promised to follow Tiara wherever she went. The tea time was wonderful, and Tiara was happy. In contrast, Akari was so bored, especially bored since Heart Knights wasn't visiting. She couldn't believe it was all about Tiara, because she loved Prince Aqua too, and she was the heroine. Remembering that, she got an idea. Aqua would, meanwhile, take Tiara to a secluded bench. He was fine having fun with everyone, but he wanted some alone time with her. He spoke in a soft whisper, thanking her for accepting his proposal. But he didn't want it to be all for show. He wanted to ask her again, since he did kind of force her into all this. Speaking her full name, he asked her to be his consort, and cheeks in his palms, she accepted with much pleasure. He abruptly kissed her, apologizing because he was just so happy. He told her, "Tiara, I love you," and pulled her in for a kiss in the arms of the person she loved. This was the kind of first kiss people dreamed of. They said each other's names over and over as he showered her with kisses. She was just so adorable, he couldn't stop, and she was gonna die of embarrassment. But she was happy. An intense light suddenly shone, illuminating the whole area. It was so intense, nobody knew what was going on, except for Tiara. She suspected this was the heroine's holy prayer, a rare magic that only one person in this world could use. Its light, with its power of absolute purification, enveloped the entire country, repelled disasters, and brought peace. Only the heroine of the game could use it. Tiara questioned why use it now. Aqua had his men look into it, assuring Tiara things would be fine. But she knew every country wanted the power of the Holy Prayer, not just the kingdom of lapis lazuli. She was sure the kingdom of Marine Forest would do anything to get it. She questioned if Prince Aqua would desire the heroine's power. He just looked at her, telling her that no matter what, he'd protect her. On another day, Verline poured Tiara some extra sweet tea. She drank with anxiousness, because there hasn't been a report from the castle yet about the Holy Prayer. She felt a clench thinking about what might happen once Aqua found out about Akari's power. Assuming things followed the game's story, Aqua was introduced in the sequel, so that shouldn't matter. But now that the game's practically over, she wondered if they were moving on to the sequel now, and would he end up by Akari's side? One of the knights would report that he was told the light was the result of defective magical equipment, and Lady Tiara Rose was asked to return home until the castle's inspection of said equipment was complete. They were glad it was nothing serious, except for Tiara, who knew what it really was. She didn't want to go. She wanted to see for herself where the game went from here, and hoped Aqua didn't take the heroine's hand. That evening, Noah entered Aqua's office, giving him the news Akari, in fact, has learned to use the Holy Prayer. Aqua couldn't believe what he was hearing. This was becoming a problem, because the Holy Prayer was a power desired by all nations. Any nation possessing it could enjoy total peace. Those who could use it often married royalty. Every royal family wanted to make it their own. It's likely that lapis lazuli would make Akari marry Prince Heartknights, so they wouldn't ever lose her. But even so, Aqua considered using the power of Marine Forest to intervene. He wanted to obtain the Holy Prayer to make his nation more prosperous. 10 days passed, and Tiara still knew nothing about the Holy Prayer. She assumed her father might know something, since he's the Prime Minister. But she couldn't ask him about something the royal family was keeping quiet. She also hasn't seen Aqua since that day. Verline alerted Tiara preparations to depart for Marine Forest were complete. They could go whenever she was ready. But she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Tiara felt frustrated that all she could do was wait for a word from Aqua. Akari, meanwhile, continued to mull over why Prince Aqua wasn't visiting her yet. She thought once he saw the Holy Prayer, he'd immediately say he wanted her and head here to get her. She got so happy with the idea she'd go to Marine Forest and marry him. It's been 2 weeks already. She whined and complained, wanting Prince Aqua. Then, hearing a knock at her door, she lit up with a bright smile. Sometime later, Tiara was making some desserts. Today was the day Aqua would finally come to see her again. She figured it had to be because the details were decided. She tried to remain optimistic because her father hadn't said anything. Surely, Aqua wouldn't bring bad news. She hoped he'd like the desserts she put together. He apologized for not seeing her as of late, saying the preparations had been taking all his time. She told him not to worry, but couldn't help but notice he seemed a bit down. They sat down and had tea. He told her the truth. The engagement had been settled. Lady Akari's, that is. Hearing this, Tiara's heart sank. Lady Akari, and who? It wouldn't surprise her if he's been working to get his hands on the Holy Prayer. The walls were closing in as she envisioned the pain afflicting her all over again. She begged in her heart that her love wasn't being taken from her. He told her Lady Akari and Prince Heartknights were now formally engaged. Tiara opened her eyes in surprise. Aqua imagined she'd feel conflicted since Heartknights was the man who hurt her. But really, she was so thankful it wasn't Aqua. She admitted she thought he was getting engaged to Akari, and she was so scared. He asked why she would think that, because he'd never choose anyone but her. Holding her hands, he apologized for making her feel uneasy and told her, "Come now, don't cry." He suddenly kissed her sobbing face, then looked at her eye to eye. He told her, "Tiara, I missed you so." And the two kissed with a loving passion. She was so thankful he didn't choose Akari. He then told her he was taking her with him to Marine Forest and asked if she'd stay by his side for the rest of their lives. She told him of course, and they kissed again. At night, while she lay trying to sleep, she suddenly woke up by a bright light shining in her room. Akari greeted her, "Good evening." Tiara questioned why she was here, and Akari told her she's given it a lot of thought and asked if Tiara was a player in this game as well. Tiara gasped. Hearing game, she now figured Akari transmigrated just like her. Akari continued on, saying Tiara was the only thing that differed from the original game. Everything else went according to the game's events, but the ending didn't go right for her at all. Tiara tried playing coy, responding she didn't know what Akari was talking about. But Akari told her to stop playing dumb. She was planning to marry Prince Heartknights and be happy, but then came along her favorite, Prince Aqua. She couldn't believe it, but Aqua was the main route in the sequel, so she thought she'd be content with Heartknights, her second favorite. But obviously, if she could marry Aqua, she'd rather have him. Akari could tell Tiara didn't know anything about the sequel, or about the adorable heroine in Marine Forest. Tiara gasped, and Akari was vindicated. She baited Tiara into admitting what she truly was. So now Tiara finally admitted she reincarnated. The last thing Tiara remembered was playing the game, but that's all. Akari was shocked Tiara died before even playing the sequel. She let out eccentric tears, telling Tiara, "You poor thing, there's no otome game out there anywhere near as amazing. Prince Heartknights is great, but Prince Aqua in the sequel is so much better." The sequel's heroine is a duke's daughter in Marine Forest named Isilla, and just when Prince Aqua is feeling fed up with the fiancé the state chose for him, he meets her on the seashore. She thought the event CG for that scene was just gorgeous, having lost track of how many times she played. That aside, Akari made it evident she could use the holy prayer and believed surely if she told her beloved Prince Aqua that, she'd be able to marry him. She demanded Tiara break up with him. However, Tiara refused. Akari couldn't understand it. Akari thought she loved Aqua so much more than Tiara did, and she played the game so many times. Tiara argued back that Aqua was not a game. He was a person, and the way Akari was looking at things was ignoring his desires. Akari smirked, asking what Tiara was talking about. Since Aqua was the crown prince of a major country, once he found out, he'd obviously choose her. She raised her hand to Tiara's face and showed a spark of vicious thunder that cut Tiara's cheek. Akari had already thought up a scenario where Tiara got injured and her engagement called off because of it. Tiara shrank back with Akari's threat, but Akari told her not to worry. She'd only make her fall asleep a little. Tiara shouted she'd never get away with this, but Akari argued she was the heroine, so when this was all said and done, she'd get the happy ending. She shot another thunder spell, and with it imminent to strike Tiara, the two would be surprised to find a blue light protecting her. Aqua held Tiara from behind, thankful that he made it in time. Watching the light barrier around the two, Akari couldn't believe he was here. Glancing at the cut on Tiara's cheek, he apologized for not being on time after all. Tiara's father would enter the room, asking what was going on, and Aqua told Akari to explain. She told him it wasn't what he was thinking. She learned how to use the holy prayer, and now she was being forced to marry Heartknights. She begged Aqua to save her, to take her to his kingdom. Marquis Clementine asked what gave her the right to say that, reminding her she said she loved Prince Heartknights. Akari told them to stay out of this, and brought up that the holy prayer would make Aqua's kingdom more prosperous. Aqua told her he knew that Akari was in possession of the holy prayer, but that didn't mean she could underestimate him. He'd lead his kingdom to prosperity, even without her power. He told her he didn't need her. Picking up Tiara and a princess carry, he made it clear she was the only one he wanted. Akari fell to the floor, saying it was all lies. Not choosing her was inconceivable. Aqua called for Akari's apprehension, and with the magic binding cuffs, the knights took her away. He then asked Tiara if she had any other injuries, and she told him no, she was safe because he came to her rescue. He was glad and snuggled her close, telling her after all she'd been through, she was welcome to be a little more demanding. In the morning, Akari whined about having to be locked away. She was spared from more serious punishment because of Tiara, but was still a little sad. Shooting a spell, she watered a plant with her magic. Being restrained in this room by a barrier, that was the strongest magic she could use at the moment. Hearing a knock at the door, Heartknights entered, and she was happy he came for her. He told her he wouldn't be staying for long, but she told him she was so bored, she had to have tea with him. Sitting down, he told her plainly they'd be married, and she answered, "Okay, understood." Her casual acceptance was odd to him, especially having heard she had feelings for Aqua Steed. Aqua was indeed her favorite, but Heartknights was mistaken. She told him she loved him too. She knew she was being impudent, but loved everything about this ultimate game world. She told him again that she loved him a lot. Oh my god, she's an all routes type of girl. He smiled with relief, drank his tea, and decided to head home for now. Bruh, I don't care how hot a girl is, I could never accept being the second pick. Hit me with a lightning bolt instead. The parents said their goodbyes to our lovely main couple. Aqua promised to make Tiara happy. The two spoke of their happiness being together, and the parents chuckled seeing the lovebirds. They'd still miss their daughter though. Tiara told them that after a year of bridal training, she'd return here briefly for her debutante party, and they could look forward to to lots of gifts from Marine Forest. It was a bittersweet goodbye, but Tiara's heart was pounding in a way like never before. As the carriage took off, the father cried tears of joy. Tiara was way too embarrassed before, but she wanted to try demanding Aqua's attention. She put her head on his shoulder. This was about as much as she could do at the moment. He then put his head on hers, telling her she really was just too cute. A letter suddenly appeared before them. It was from Akari to Tiara. It read, "Dear Lady Tiara, this letter is the strongest magic I'm able to use in the White Tower. I'm going to do my best to be happy with Prince Heart Knights, so please find your happiness too." The two thought Akari's words were a bit too convenient, but Tiara's eyes widened, seeing at the bottom in Japanese, Akari also wrote, "If you lose to the sequel's heroine, I'll never forgive you." Tiara chuckled, wanting to keep this letter to cheer up in case she ever felt discouraged. She swore not to lose to the sequel heroine she hadn't even met yet. As their carriage arrived in Marine Forest territory, two men observing in the air wondered what kind of girl Aqua's brought home. Oh man, how are things gonna go from here? Subscribe to keep up with next week's part. But for now, watch this next video. It's me, Comfy T. I'll see you all in the next one.